Hello, Stormtech here. Today I'm going to give you a full review of my VFR 750 from 1991. Stay tuned, here we go. The VFR models probably don't need much of an introduction. They've been some of the highest quality motorcycles built since 1986 all the way to 2021. However, this is a 748cc V4 carbureted engine featuring gear-driven cams, making 105 horsepower at 11,500 RPM. For a 30-year-old motorcycle, that's pretty impressive. These bikes have a reputation for being incredibly reliable and are actually the bikes which helped Honda build this highly reliable reputation. Let's get into the specifics of the VFR 750 then. I think the appearance holds up in the modern day. It's obviously a classic, but still looks beautiful. I know anytime that I throw a leg over this that I'm turning heads, and trust me, between the appearance and the sound, she does draw everyone's attention. Being a classic with carbs, we have a manual choke over on the left here. Basically, you just open it up when turning the bike on and slowly close it as the bike warms up. We've also got manually controlled headlights, unlike modern bikes which have always on headlights, so be aware of that. Other notable features are the manual controls to turn off the fuel supply, or to open up the reserve part of the tank. We've also got a center stand which is very easy to get the bike up on, unlike the notoriously difficult 6th gen VFR center stand. Even though the bike is from 1991, we do actually have a few creature comforts as well, such as a fuel gauge, a clock, which I've replaced with a voltage meter, a temp gauge. Unfortunately, no gear indicator, but you can add one aftermarket. The VFR is decently quick then. Like I said, it makes 105 horsepower with an easy to manage torque curve. The brakes come on nice and sharp, so the stopping power is generally enough to stop its hefty weight of 240 kilograms-ish. In relation to the weight, what I have noticed is that under heavy braking, the front feels quite soft and lurchy. This can probably be fixed with a hard fork oil, adding preload to the front, and even upgrading the forks with something more modern. Or do the speed limit. It is, however, supremely comfortable when riding on our awful road surfaces here in the UK, so there is that. The gear changes, even on my 50,000 mile model here, are nice and smooth once the bike is at running temperature. The sitting position is also quite neutral and relaxed. It's a very easy to ride motorcycle actually. My feet feel close to the road and my knees are relatively unstressed. The handlebars are in a decent enough place for me too. I'm 6 foot tall or 183 centimeters, but riding this bike, my shoulders and my back don't hurt. The overall quality of the bike feels very high, especially considering it's over 30 years old now. And I've left the sound of the bike for last here, just take a listen. As you can see, it's a very unique soundtrack you have for this bike. The V4 engine gives a nice deep growl, and the awesome gear-driven cams make this nice whining sound. They go together quite well. There are a few things about the bike which I don't like, however, which I'll talk about now. VFR fanatics, close your ears. As I mentioned, I'm 6 foot tall, and the windscreen isn't quite tall enough for me. When I'm riding on the motorway, a lot of air goes past my ears. So, as you can see in the videos, I've added a little addition to the windscreen that goes on top of the windscreen, and now the air goes above my head. So, definitely get one of these if you're going to get this bike. Also, there's the obvious. Carbs are annoying to deal with. Fuel injection is much more hands-off. The fairings have odd shapes here and there. It's the old style, right? The way they mount to the bike causes some stress points which can easily end up in cracks, even just from sitting on the bike. If you drop the bike, good luck finding replacement fairings for it. Even the Chinese aren't making replacement fairing kits for this bike. As previously mentioned, the front suspension seems a bit soft under heavy braking. And the same as all V4s, some maintenance is harder, like changing spark plugs for example. And finally, a little bit nitpicky now, the headlights and mirrors aren't as good as I was hoping for. Coming from a 6th gen VFR, I was really spoiled with what I think must be the best headlights and mirrors on a bike. They aren't bad on this model, they're just kind of okay. Also, when riding with earplugs, I can't even hear the gear-driven cams, which is supposedly the biggest selling point for this bike. Maybe VFR riders don't wear earplugs? In summary, I quite like this bike as a road bike, an exploration bike, and as a commuter. It does all of these things quite well. I can't help but think though, maybe some kind of adventure bike would be better at all of those things. Just like all of the VFRs, it doesn't excel at anything, but it also isn't bad at anything either. It is quite good at most things actually. The one standout feature for this bike, similar to all of the VFRs, is the sound. This bike seems to be for guys who love classic bikes then, who have connection to this bike in the past, like maybe they wanted one of these when they were young, and maybe for guys who just want to experience riding an older classic bike without a classic bike price tag. Remember, they're also quite cheap to pick up. Decent examples are around for about £1,500. A lot of people, they'll buy a VFR as a winter bike because, well, it's just generally capable of everything. In my final opinion, I prefer the newer VFRs. Yeah, the 750 is pretty good. It's a do-it-all motorcycle. But over the years, Honda improved upon it. We've got the fuel-injected 800 and later on the awesome 6th gen which brought the VTEC engine. Yes, that one did have a few problems too. Although sacrilege for the VFR fans crowd to say that, I do prefer the sound and the power delivery of the VTEC engine as well as other things. Check out some of my VFR VTEC videos on my channel to see what the bike is about. As always, I may have missed some things you were looking for in this review. Usually it's things you can find by googling the spec sheet of the bike, but if there's any questions you have, or if you agree or disagree on something, leave a comment. Thanks for watching guys, make sure to give the video a like, and if you want to see more videos, subscribe to the channel. See you next time.